What's up everybody, it's Lo and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about something that everybody's been talking about and I have thoughts about as well, and that is Shane Dawson's new series video with Jeffree Star. I'm just having like major flashbacks. But before we get into that, if you have not already, please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get a notification every time I post. And please don't send anybody any hate, negativity, nothing like that. These are just my thoughts and opinions based on what I am seeing on the internet. I'm sorry, I'm just laughing about it because this video is just... If you have something to say about what we are talking about, just shoot it down in the comments below. That's what they are there for. So a week before this video went up, Shane Dawson posted the thumbnail for it, and honestly, I didn't know if it was real at first. It kind of looked like bad Photoshop. It was real. There was the video, The Canceled World of Jeffree Star and Shane Dawson. The video everyone kind of knew was coming, but was still kind of surprised that it actually happened. So I watched this video, I watched it a few times, and I took notes. The first time I just wanted to take it in at face value. I was like, okay, I haven't watched a Shane Dawson video in a really long time. Let's see if he's changed or, if he's, different now. Spoiler alert, he's not. But, I took it for what it was, and I did even chuckle a few moments, but most of the time I was just kind of uncomfortable and other times just really bored. The editing of this video is very similar to the conspiracy palette videos that he did with Andrew, who was his, well, he calls him in this video his coworker, so it doesn't seem like he was necessarily an employee. They were more like partners in this endeavor. I mean, Andrew also got a lipstick named after him, I believe. I think it was a lipstick, maybe it was like an eyeshadow. But it's similar in the sense that it is split between two timelines. We are getting a timeline of early 2022 in like very early February. I think it's like the 7th. Which is just a few days after my wedding anniversary. Yeah, we like literally got married right before the pandemic. It's like a crazy first year of marriage, am I right? But the world hadn't completely shut down yet. It would, at least in the area that I live in. Our lockdown went into effect almost a month after this was shot. So all of that stuff is filmed before Tati came out with her video and talking about fearing for her life and legal stuff, but also implicated Shane Dawson and being heavily involved with the Bye Sister video. A lot of stuff about Shane and Jeffree started to bubble to the surface, and they went through their cancellation process. So that's kind of that in like a nutshell, like a very, very small condensed nutshell. I want to focus first on the present day stuff that's going on because, I don't know, I just felt like it's easier to like focus on that, and then it kind of sheds a light as to why this past stuff is being shown anyway. The present day stuff starts off with his new camera guy, Chris, who I think is on his podcast now, showing up to the house to do some filming stuff, and he can't find Shane. He's walking all throughout his house, finds Ryland. I don't know if Ryland actually points him to where he is. He's like looking everywhere for him. At one point there's this random clip of Shane sitting on the deck at the pond in his home in Colorado, but then it cuts back to the camera guy looking for him, and he finds him in the bathroom. So I was not really sure why there was this clip of him on the deck in the first place. But anyway, Chris finds Shane in his closet that is full of clothes that he only wears for his podcast, and he talks extensively about how he just wears the same shirt and pants all the time, and he does later go on to rip these pants literally in like 5 minutes or something, which this is why you own more than one pair of pants, kids. That actually just happened to me the other day, and I was really surprised because it hadn't happened in a while. I also found it interesting that in this closet, Shane said, I have been enjoying incorporating more brighter colors, and he pulls out a muted green Henley shirt. This is a guy that later on you'll see 2 years ago was planning out a palette and all the colors and coming up with these great color stories and stuff, but he called this shirt bright. Maybe he should hop on Skillshare and do just like a little color theory courses. It would be very beneficial to him, I think, in the long run. Then Chris compliments something that he has previously worn, and the way Shane thanks him is by pretending to go in to blow him. So we witness him sexually harass his employee, and then continues to talk about him getting an erection, his camera guy, Chris, and then even later does talk about his lack of sex life with Ryland. Of course, that is only brought up because Chris, the camera guy, does point out a thing of tissues and lotion. At this point, I'm starting to feel sexually harassed by all of this weird, awkward sex talk that's happening though. And this shows me that Shane has not really changed. He still makes wildly inappropriate jokes at other people's expense around him. He is still the same guy who pretended to be pleasuring himself to a picture of a young Willow Smith. He is still the same guy that called I think like a 6-year-old cheerleader sexy. Nothing about Shane has changed. This showed me he is still the same person he was years ago. He actually says in this video at some point he just like doesn't care what people think anymore. He also said he doesn't like pull back in what he says. He doesn't worry about what he's saying in videos anymore, and that makes him less stressed, which is a good thing. But also you say some pretty like awful things sometimes and make people uncomfortable. Anyway, they transition from the closet to the bathroom, which I will admit I do enjoy the layout of the primary bedroom going into like a walk-in closet, going into like a nice split up bathroom sort of situation with a big old tub. Of course, that bathroom was a total disaster, but what do we expect from Shane Dawson? And Shane's talking to Chris about how he wants to do this series, but he really doesn't know what to do this series about. And that shows me that Shane is not this like master planner that everybody thought he was with the first series, because everybody was like, oh, this is like heavily planned out. He did this stuff. Well, he started filming this series and didn't have any clear course of action or anything like that. Allegedly. I don't know. Part of me thinks that some of this was kind of planned and contrived a little bit, but we'll get into that. Anyway, you know, he's like, I gotta come up with a new series. I've been brainstorming, but he doesn't have ideas. He goes to Instagram, and it's at this point in time that Jeffree Star is brought up in conversation. He asks if he's still friends with him, and he says, of course. Shane kind of says something like, well, should we just go to the yak farm? Or I thought about going to the yak farm and doing like a video, which, spoiler alert, he does that. And we pretty much already knew that because, I don't know, it was like a few months ago, they were posting on Instagram at his ranch together. So we all knew they filmed there. Like, they're not going to be together in the same place and not make some kind of YouTube video about it. I'm sure Jeffree will have something up on his channel too. But in the beginning, because Shane does not know what the series will hold, he's kind of thinking it'll be about him and it'll be called The Mind of Shane Dawson, and people around him, Chris, Ryland's family, will ask him questions, deep thought-provoking questions, in hopes to like make him cry. And all of the questions pretty much revolve around the cancellation, stuff that was being said about him online, Jeffree and the palette in the previous series. In fact, the only person that doesn't bring up like any of those things is Ryland's grandma, who instead takes the time to express that if she and Shane were closer in ages, that she would be attracted to him. Doesn't that mean you're attracted to him now? Anyway, Grandma, thanks for making it awkward, but Ryland's family is actually, they're very cute, and I'm choosing not to focus on them. It was just that moment was very funny. What I found most interesting about any of these interactions was Ryland's mom really dove into the conspiracy palette moment and how she felt like she didn't like how people said that it was a cash grab, and why didn't Shane defend himself against people who were saying the whole thing was a cash grab? Because it was. Shane and Ryland's mom both say, you know, he was really passionate about makeup and he really loved experimenting with it, and if it was just a quick cash grab, why would he invest all this money and buy all this makeup? Well, I mean, he got tons of PR, so I'm sure he had a ton of makeup that he did not pay for, and he never posted a look with his own palettes. He had 2 palettes come out, and he didn't make a look on Instagram, he didn't make a YouTube tutorial video, he didn't do any of that. When that palette came out, that he was done talking about it, and I guess he was moving on to the next one. So you're super passionate about makeup, but you come out with the biggest thing that makeup has ever seen according to you guys. You don't even like use it with your fans. You know, he just made this multi-episode super infomercial. I mean, he made a whole makeup channel for makeup content and never posted on it. I'm pretty sure it's now his podcast channel. We didn't get any makeup looks. We got like maybe a couple makeup looks like posted on Snapchat maybe. So that is how we know it was a cash grab. And also because he just moved on to the next one. He also said in this that it wasn't about the palette, it was about the series, and he really downplays how much money he made from the palette. So like if the palette made like 30 million and 20 million went to, it was just like this whole thing he broke down, and he said, I didn't make 20 or even 10 million. So he could have made like 9 million. And then maybe he had to split that with Andrew and anybody else that maybe he had working for him. That's still like several $1,000,000. I think Shane suffers from what a lot of influencers suffer from, is they very quickly lose like any real concept of the value of money and how much money they're actually getting for things. And he said that the series was like the big part for him. So let's not forget the amount of AdSense he was getting, because those videos, I don't even know how many views they have gotten at this point, probably like 50 million views or something. Let's not downplay the amount of AdSense revenue he was getting from that. And the sponsors were probably paying so much money to be in these videos. Those things, in addition to the sales of the palette, that's equaling a ton of money. But I do not really like to get into people's finances. I just think he completely neglected that side, but it was telling that he said it was more about the series. And of course, because he made so much money from that, he's so desperate to make another series as big as that. So why not do another series with Jeffree Star? His first two proved to be very, very, very lucrative. Anyway, for the most part, the present day stuff is pretty mundane. They take all their pets to the vet. They have 3 dogs and a cat. All of their pets are so cute, and their 2 older dogs are fat, which I totally get. In the beginning of this video, when he's like not really sure what he's going to do, he does say like every series needs like a big secret, a big reveal, and he actually comes up with an idea, but he has to get approval for it first. He does eventually reveal after the vet visits and everything that he actually did get in contact with Jeffree Star, who, you know, has been brought up several times throughout this entire day in our life. If this is a regular day in their life and they bring up Jeffree Star this much, they really center a lot of their existence around everything that happened with Jeffree and the palette and everything like that. So I feel like that's where they're still mentally stuck there a lot. He reveals that he was actually working on a palette with Jeffree, and then I think COVID and then the cancellation occurred, so they canceled it. And we know he started developing the second palette because those flashback things that are spliced in conspiracy palette video style, like, they're all flashes of the development of the second palette. He, in present time, you know, texts Jeffree. He gets permission from him to talk about it because Shane says he actually does have the palette. He has all of the colors. They never actually made like a packaging for it, so he doesn't have that. But he needs permission to talk about that. He was maybe going to talk about that experience. Once again, he knows if he reveals this in a new series, he's going to get more views. He's going to maybe rake in more of that beauty business money that, you know, he claims he already left this circus. Jeffree Star sends him a voice memo back that we get to hear, and Jeffree says, yes, you can of course talk about it. In fact, let's talk about it in person. They decide, yep, we're going to the Yak Ranch like they alluded to in the beginning, like we already knew they were going to. The present day stuff ends with Shane packing up a Z palette that has all the shades in it. We don't get to see those, but we do get to see a lot of the shades in the flashbacks. And then you see B-roll of them like packing up and flying off into the sunset of, where does he live? Wyoming? Yeah, Wyoming. Now the past 2020 footage starts off, they're going into the lab. They are seeing the, I was gonna say they're seeing the conspiracy palette being printed, but I guess you would say pressed or assembled, I don't know. And they're actually going in to do swatches for their second palette for Shane too. They actually do say the name of the palette, but it's like super hush hush. They censor the name, so we can't actually tell what it is. This makes me think the reason they're not doing that is because they want a big reveal to reveal that they are going to sell it, because Black Friday is coming up very soon. Like, very, very soon. And this is, maybe even if it's just a 2-parter, that's a perfect time to have this already pressed and ready to go. Shane does say when the cancellation of the both of them went down, he told Jeffree, like, cancel the palette, I don't want to do it, I don't know if I'm gonna like stuff on the internet anymore, and go ahead and repurpose any of the colors that you want to, which I'm pretty sure he did repurpose some of these, like that sparkly black, and I feel like that explains a lot of the criticism that came with the palette that I think was the palette that came out in like around that time frame, which was the Bloodlust palette. It was supposed to be a purple palette, but it did have a bright red in it, which could have been that, and I think it had like a sparkly black in it. I know it had a green in it, which was like really weird. So people were like, why are there so many shades that are not purple? Like, there's so many purple varieties you could do to put in this. So I do think that some of the stuff probably did get pressed. So he was like, well, I gotta put this in something. And though they censored the name of this, I do think the palette is called Canceled. I really do. I really think this palette is called Canceled, or the Canceled palette, because In the voice memo, Jeffree Star says, you know, we should say this face to face because he mentioned something about like double entendres or like the irony of it or like looking back. He says like a few things. So I was like, I wonder if this palette is called Cancelled. In the beginning, at some point, Shane does mention that he did actually attempt to ask somebody else to be in this, and they initially said yes, but then he was like, well, you're sure? Because you might get bad press for agreeing with me, and they never answered, and you know, he doesn't reveal who that is. So I wonder if it is a YouTuber or if it is like somebody else. Like I almost wondered if it was that woman, Jeanette McCurdy, is that her name? She was on the Nickelodeon show. She just came out with that book, I'm Glad My Mom Died, because she is like a really hot topic right now. She is very fascinating. I've been watching a lot of interviews with her, and I also saw her book on his bookshelf. I don't know, that's just like my interesting speculation if he would have gone like a completely different route. So of course he had to work with Jeffree, you know, I mean, Jeffree has been a good money maker for him in the past. It's gonna have to work again, right? He could have done Gabby Hanna, although like I don't think anything could redeem her at this point. That would have been interesting to watch though, that's for sure. Of course, you know, he couldn't do another series with Trisha because he's never made any, at least like publicly known attempt. And Trisha, I think, would tell if Shane actually like reached out to her or something, but to repair like that whole friendship that kind of disintegrated because of Jeffree. No, instead he's gonna make a video with Jeffree Star, so we see where like his real loyalty lays. And then, like I said, the video ends with Shane packing up his little Z palette, and then they're heading off into the sunset of Wyoming. I do think they're gonna come out with this palette. I really do. Black Friday is coming up soon. A lot of people would be really excited about this. Unfortunately, I hope that they've repressed some of these colors, because if they've been sitting for 2 years, I mean, eyeshadow does stay good for a while, but like, come on, how long do you want that stuff to sit there, really? Anyway, that was kind of my brief synopsis of this video. It was 53 minutes long. It was like so long. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think. I do think that they are going to actually try and sell this on Black Friday. I, of course, am curious to see what the next installment brings. Anyway, I will see you all in my next video. If you have not already, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and please check out my other channel too, Lowstalgia. It's a channel where I dive into all things fun and nostalgic, thrifted, all kinds of things. So that is just like my fun like hobby channel. So check it out if you are interested. I will have it in my Linktree thing, and I will see you guys in my next video. Laters. Bye.